we go. Here we go. Wilder Show podcast. Lauren.
Hello.
Hi. It's a Wilder Show podcast, and so we're very interested in the days ahead. Welcome to all those who have maybe heard about this. You know, I did put out some teasers.
You did, and can I say? I mean, I kind of pride myself on having a good memory, which several years have passed since the last time. Sometimes I don't remember really important things. I remember really useless things.
Yes.
I mean, I know a lot about 80s music and stuff like that nobody else cares about, or 90s or aughts or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I was you were talking about, some of the response that you've had, I recognize those names. It was like hearing from friends. And I don't want to call anybody out right away now, but just know if you responded to that early call that Scott put out. I saw your names and I remember you, and it's great. Thank you.
Isn't that fun? Mm-hmm. Isn't that fun to look back and think, I know that person.
I know.
I've never met them. Or maybe they came to a movie thing we did,
right.
Something like that. Maybe we met them. I don't know. But you read the names. You go, oh my goodness.
I remember her. I remember it. Yeah, for sure.
I know her. I know him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wilder Show website. Let me just tell you, website, wildershow.com. Like, follow, subscribe, and share on the podcast, which will drop Tuesdays. I love saying drop. Which will drop Tuesdays and Fridays. At 6 a.m. on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, wherever you get your stuff. But you should be able to find it in one or more of those places. So we're really excited. I'm looking to you. We're really excited about these days ahead.
I am.
Well, I am too.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry I'm late. I was late getting in here today.
What's going on?
For a long time, I have a shed in the backyard.
Yeah.
And it's an really old shed.
You mean like a lawnmower, like a storage
Yeah, it's
shed?
a storage thing to put lawnmowers and lawn equipment.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And but over time goes by, and then you hire other people to do the lawn. You leave stuff out there, and you say, "Yeah, I'm gonna my resolution for 1997 is to clean out that shed." And here we are 8 years later.
Wait a minute. Did you say 8 years later?
Oh,
you said
that's
1997.
Right. No, you're right.
8 years later, you have lost a few years. That's 1997 is a lot more. That's more like 28
All right, 28 years, whatever it takes. I meant well.
Okay.
In 1997 when I said that. But one of the great things about that shed was I had bunnies. Lived near a creek, and so the bunnies sort of, were seeking higher ground.
You really loved those bunnies.
See, this is funny because if I say it, people think I'm making this up. I did not send as many pictures of bunnies to you as you have sent pictures of Charlie to me.
Do you know what I thought you were going to say? I thought you were going to say, I did not send as many pictures of bunnies to you as I took. I'm imagining your camera roll with 500 pictures of bunnies.
That's true.
And you only sent a picture or two. You really loved those bunnies. And just for a little while at first, it seemed to me it was just a little bit out of character, but it was sweet. It was very sweet how much you loved those bunnies. Go ahead. This is your story. Not my story.
No. I just say, yes, of course I had more because I had to get her face just right before.
Like golden hour and stuff like that.
Like, come back out. It's almost sunset. Anyway, and then the bunnies, I also live in a place where there are, and I love this. If I could be a bird, I would be a red-tailed hawk.
Ooh.
Bird of prey, also protected by the law. But the red-tailed hawk, I love the red-tailed hawk. It's a bad combination for bunnies to be in the red-tailed hawk part of the world and also be in the bunny part of the world, because sometimes red-tailed hawks are hungry. Mm-hmm. And so at some point...
Is that what happened to the...
Well, I don't I'm going to think that if somebody took them to a farm somewhere up off of 75 and set them free. We found a farmer that wanted to keep the bunnies, but I was disappointed when the bunnies went away.
Yeah.
Well, this morning, and I mean this morning, it was nice and crisp and cold, and I like to go outside and be in the crisp and cold weather. And I was out quite early, and I noticed 4 little eyes staring back at me from the shed, and I thought,
Wait. They were
bunnies.
inside the. They were inside.
They
the
were
shed?
coming out of the shed.
Coming out of the shed.
I said, bunnies. They're back. Possums.
No.
Anyway, so I'm sorry I'm late, Lauren. I know you were strumming your fingers and tapping your foot.
No, not at all.
Anyway, so
totally worth it.
But
that's for the possum story.
Anyway, possums, they're so gross looking, man. They look like they got something bad in them, and you don't want it,
Yeah.
I'm just not a fan of the bunnies. They probably have the same stuff, but they're so cute. Anyway, so that's a tragic beginning to the Wilder Show podcast, but
not at all.
Anyway, so let me say this. I mentioned before, podcast is going to drop on Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 a.m. And you can get it wherever you get podcasts, but primarily Spotify and Apple and the others, iHeart, Amazon. And it will be every 2 times a week, every single week. And it'll be broken up to really 2 parts. One is sort of news and comment and things that are going on that are immediate, like possums, that are part of the headlines. And then we have Scattershoot. And Scattershoot is, Lauren, something I've always loved, which is...
I know. Yeah, go ahead.
If this little podcast were church, this is morning church, and that's Sunday night church.
Okay.
This is big church, that is Sunday night church. It's totally different. We'll tell you more later in Scattershoot, but that's the way it'll break up. So it's the first part is this and headlines and different things and things going on. And the second part is going to be Scattershoot, which is also, it's a little more, I don't know, relaxed. How would you describe Scattershoot relative to?
It's more of the stuff I'm going to know about.
Oh, really? No, you
maybe,
know about
maybe
Are you
not.
kidding?
Maybe
no,
not.
you're on. You know what
I
you're
don't
doing.
know.
Anyway, so that's the way it works. And again, you can find us on Facebook, Wilder Show. Website is wildershow.com. Podcast Tuesdays and Thursdays. I mentioned Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart. Like, follow, subscribe, share, whatever it is you do. And I really, the first 100 days, those, Lauren, are our charter members.
Okay. You mean the people who listen?
Yeah. Who or register. You'll see there's a way to actually send us comments and questions and show topics and things like that.
Yeah.
If you go to wildershow.com or if you go to Facebook and find us on Facebook, you'll find a way to do that there. There's a way to participate. It's not just a narrative.
I did see that in some of the emails. Yep. Charter member.
So I would say charter member. Most of us, it's sort of fun, isn't it? Or it is for me to discover something.
To be an early adopter.
Yes. Yeah. There you go. You're talking the language of the Vox Populi. To be a charter member, to be an early adopter, to say, oh, yeah, I knew about that, or I told you that was good, or whatever. Mm-hmm. To know of a restaurant before anybody else knows about it. Can I give you a real example that's going to make your head explode?
Sure.
To know of the Gaineses in Waco before anyone else.
Yeah.
Chip and Joanna Gaines, knew about them 100 years ago. Baylor people, Waco people, and look at them today. It's like a whole flipping industry.
It is a flipping industry.
And it's just crazy, the stuff that they have now. My point is that when you find something early on, it's kind of fun to say, I told you Chip and Joanna got it going on.
They were going to be big. Yeah.
So here they are. So, and I got my guy in Waxahachie that is my smoker and grill guy that we'll talk about maybe in a future Scattershoot. Have to talk about that at some point. But anyway, let's dive into some of the things. I guess here as we begin 2025, we have to talk a little bit, don't we, about some of the biggest stories of 2024?
Oh, sure.
I think from a a point of proximity, probably we have to talk about the recent terror thing that took place.
Yeah.
That's a huge deal. We'll get into that in a second. And, of course, we have to say a word about the passing of Jimmy Carter. Mm-hmm. I want to be really kind. You know, sometimes when you die, people only remember the good things. And, by the way, I'm hoping for that.
Oh, for yourself. For yourself.
For myself. Yeah, he wasn't a jerk. He was a nice guy. Jimmy Carter, in his post-presidential time, was a great humanitarian, perhaps always a great humanitarian. And I'm a huge fan of Habitat for Humanity and the great work that he did. And did work even right here locally, not so many years ago. I think celebrating his 90th birthday or something. He's out there with a hammer. I was nervous. It's like, don't give him a hammer. Don't give him nails. I mean, you just never know. And but great humanitarian work that he did. Now, as a politician, he certainly will go down as not the greatest president ever. And I bring all this up only to say that was the first presidential election that I ever voted in.
Oh, wow.
Was 1980.
I think we've talked about that. I think I remember you telling me that, yeah.
1980 was Jimmy Carter versus Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
And at that time, we had never had a divorced president.
Mm-hmm. Seems so innocent.
And we had never had a divorced president. And so a lot of people, Christians particularly maybe, or, whatever, thought, well, I'm not going to vote for Ronald Reagan. I mean, if the wife doesn't trust you, who would, right?
Character on the
counts.
Issue of character.
Yep. Uh-huh. And then some of us said, yeah, but you know what? The policies that he's proposing, I kind of agree with more. And again, I was early in my political iteration life, and I was still forming all of that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people said, no, I'm going to vote for the Baptist who's still married to his high school sweetheart.
Right.
Not the Hollywood guy that was a former, Democrat governor of California who was part of the Screen Actors Guild, who his second wife had a bouncing baby girl 7.5 months after they were married. Sometimes babies, arrive early.
That's true.
And so a lot of people said, I'm not going to do that. And I totally understand that. But I think what many of us learned from that is the impact of a president is beyond the 4 years that they are president. Mm-hmm. The other thing about Jimmy Carter that I would say is he was always tremendously bitter about Reagan.
You think so?
Oh, I don't think so. I know so.
Yeah.
It was actually justified. You got to think back. The youngins won't get this, but the Iran hostage crisis, those hostages were held in Tehran for 444 days.
Right.
It was during that time that ABC developed a late-night talk show called Nightline. Mm-hmm. And Nightline always began, America held hostage Day 312.
I remember.
Do you remember that?
I do.
America held hostage, Day 313. And it was a scary and amazing time to be a kid, which I was, younger than 20. And so what happened was Ronald Reagan, when he was elected, the story goes, Ronald Reagan had cut a deal with the Iranians. Once I am inaugurated, announced that they are free. And do you remember his speech on Inauguration Day, January 20th, 1980? He talked about the hostages are free.
Yep.
And that made Jimmy Carter crazy bitter, and I'm not even saying unjustifiably so. I understand it. That he was bitter for a long, perhaps the end of his life, about Reagan, and I understand that. But Reagan was the last person that I was able to vote for and I include the most recent election, that I was completely 100% for that guy.
Even in spite of those things, and again, go back to 1980 and how you might have felt about those things that you just described. Those things that at the time and now we would consider character character issues.
Yeah.
You didn't have any of those feelings about, am I
About
really
Reagan?
sure? Yeah.
No,
that this is the guy, that this is the man we want in charge.
84 was the time when I knew it was the man.
Yeah.
80 was more of the policies and different things.
Right.
And we
right.
came out of the malaise of, I mean, we had 14%, 20% inflation. I mean, mortgage rates were out of control, gasoline shortages, all kinds of stuff. And I thought, there's no way this can't be fixed. And even as a young kid, and I wasn't raised in a super conservative family or super liberal family. My parents used to kid around about, well, we just canceled out our votes.
Oh, I remember my parents saying that.
I mean,
too.
one voted one way, one voted the other. Okay, but they both voted. That was good. So I didn't live in this super hyper political family. But I think I had some sense of policies and things that I agreed with, didn't agree with, even in those really, tadpole days. But really, 84 was the time I could say, that's the guy.
Yeah.
I am voting for him. I want him, not just his policies, not just who he'll put on the Supreme Court. By the way, some of those were disappointments, it turns out, because people don't end up bending back toward conservatism. It's Sandra Day O'Connor.
Right.
I mean, they bend back the other way. So it didn't always work out. But that was the last time I was like, that's the guy.
That was the first time I voted.
That just a tremendous time. I mean, just a tremendous time. And it was formative for me. Just as just part of my DNA.
Yeah.
My personality, maybe. DNA. Never thought I'd ever do radio or anything else. So rest in peace, Jimmy Carter. You did great things post presidential time. Of great respect. Rosalind or Rosalind? Rosalind. Right. Rosalind Carter passed a few years ago, and so she's. We don't know people's souls, but she's in heaven and welcoming Jimmy Carter. Already has, and so we pray for the family and all that stuff. And I don't mean to dismiss any of that. But we celebrate his life
for sure
in its entirety. Even if 4 years of it would be different than I would have wanted him to, do. I don't think he was a great president. In fact, I know he was not a great president. But I think he was a great person. Not everyone who's a great person is a great president. Not everyone who's a great president is a great person.
Right.
We have to talk about the election, the most recent election. And Donald Trump. And gosh, he's back again. And, I think as we went through that, there are so many people that were they could not vote for him personally. But they knew that his policies were better. I also think, talking about 2025 and 2024 and the rise of different things, man, the rise of social media in 2024. I mean, the fact that Donald Trump can go on Joe Rogan's show and get 50 million people listening for 3.5 hours. I mean, you can't buy that kind of exposure, and it's unedited. It's not procured by or curated by a liberal media. It's actually what he's saying, and some of it's gonna be offensive or whatever. So we have Donald Trump again as president. Obviously, I believe the policies that he has are more reflective of the things that are most important to me. You may have listened to one of the comments that was made when you go to a Wilder Show on Facebook and you click on the thing and you can leave a voicemail.
I did. Which one?
Well, the person that said, they quoted back, it's been more than 15 years.
Oh, I know what you're going to say.
Go.
It was the war, the courts, taxes.
They remembered.
I knew it when I
I'll tell you, but it was great. It was right in the same order.
Okay.
Life, marriage, the war, the courts, taxes.
Yeah.
Life, marriage, the war, the courts, taxes.
Yep.
We always talked about, don't pick the person, don't pick the party, pick your principles. And your principles are derived, they're birthed from your worldview, and your worldview comes from your highest association.
So pick your top 5 things. What are your top 5 things?
Yeah, I don't care what they are. It could be social justice and free abortions for everybody or whatever your things are. I'm not making fun of it. You pick your things, and then you go after that person or actually more broadly, after the party that is best going to represent your ideas. People forget that it's not about the person. It wasn't about Kamala. And I don't believe it's about Donald Trump. Now, there are some people who would say, no, absolutely. Yeah, people are dumber than ever. He threw out red meat for Bubba, and they all took it, and they all voted for him. These hayseeds have never voted anywhere in their life. They finally voted, and this is the problem with America. We're a bunch of dupes.
I think there's kind of a fringe on either end of that.
I was about to say this. Go
Don't
right
you
ahead.
think?
Yeah, I do.
I think, the same way we heard when Hillary Clinton ran, I think it's time we had a woman for as president. And yeah, that's fine. If that is the woman who believes the same things that you do, if that's the woman who is going to lead the country in the way you want it to go, then sure, it's time. And nobody said it's not, we shouldn't have a woman. You just got to be sure that you're voting for the party that represents those things that you mentioned, your top 5 things, and then it just becomes sort of an issue of, in that case at least, kind of identity politics.
Well, and I'm against identity politics, as you know. Whether it's Christian or Baptist or whatever, man or woman or white or black or gay or trans, whatever. I don't care about any of that. I care about the policies, the things they're going to do. The way we said on the radio at the time was, regarding Hillary Clinton, was, you've waited too long to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Not against a woman, against that woman. And so here we are with Donald Trump as president. It's going to be interesting to see where we go. Democrats lost because they could not connect, or she perhaps did not connect with normal people. When I say normal people, I mean people just like me. No, what I mean, the vast majority of Americans. Yeah. I mean, look at the county breakdown. The county breakdown of what's blue and what's red. It's stark. There wasn't a single There wasn't a single county that she turned blue that had been red.
Right. Not
one. They did not connect. They had an ethereal. They had a not a practical. What's opposite of practical? Not practical, but a theoretical.
Yeah.
They had a theoretical idea, and it was the existential threat to democracy. Let me tell you something. People at the kitchen table conversations that we're told take place at family gatherings, they're not theoretical. They're practical. And there's always got to be a boogeyman. And for the Democrats, boogeyman was Trump and his threat to democracy, an existential threat to democracy. Also, we want to give you more abortions. That really was sort of their thing. Women's rights and women's reproductive blah, blah, blah. We'll get into that in a following, perhaps, chat. With Republicans, it was very practical. It was survival. Nobody was sitting around the kitchen table and saying, hey, let's talk about the theoretical existential threat to democracy. They said, you know what? We can't afford to go on vacation this year. I'd like to buy a new car, but and maybe I can technically right now, but I don't know what the future is going to be, so I can't.
Yeah.
But the kids coming back from college, and they can't afford rent, and so they're going to come back and live for a while and save their money. I mean, if rent is too expensive, if nobody can buy a house, if nobody is an exaggeration, but you understand what I'm saying? If nobody can buy a house, if nobody can afford the rent, if groceries are insane, those people gathering around trying to figure out who they're going to vote for are not talking theory. They're talking pragmatism.
Yeah.
They're talking survival. He also found a way to connect with people that are, what do they call it? Low propensity voters.
I don't think I heard that.
Low propensity voters. People who would not, and I think about guys in the Midwest, farmers or whatnot, they, whatever, it doesn't matter who's up there. They're all the same. They're all crooked, whatever. And he found a way, Trump did, the Republican side did, to connect to those people. To say, okay, I'm here for you. Oddly, isn't it? A billionaire is the voice of the common man who's supported by a billionaire. Actually, not a billionaire, the richest man in the world.
I think especially when you talk about connecting with voters, that there's such a disparity there.
But isn't it interesting? I think it should be encouraging to all of us that there is a way even if it isn't you, to connect with someone who is quite different from you.
It's not who he is or who he was. It's what he was telling him.
So it's going to be interesting to see, and obviously we'll be, as we always are, we'll be critical where criticism is warranted. We'll be encouraging where encouragement is warranted. We'll be perplexed probably all the time, but that's okay. I think it's going to be a grand conversation for the next 4 years. One more thing about this, we're going to move on to something else. I think it's very important for Republicans to do a good job in the first 2 years. You have the House, you have the Senate, you have the presidency. By the way, what that means is whatever happens is on you. Good or bad, it's on you. But it also means that there's a great chance we'll lose, the Republicans will lose the House and the Senate, or one or both, in the midterm election 26. If that happens, it'd be very difficult to get Supreme Court justices in that time. So also just know that if the House had fallen to Democrats, there would already be, I say already, on the 21st of January, there will be articles of impeachment against President Trump. But because they don't hold the committees, that can't be done. Now, they don't by one seat. So my point is, what you want to get done in the first 2 years. And I think you're going to see a retirement announcement from Samuel Alito and Clarence Thomas in the first 2 years. Probably one in February of this year, and then get that person in that also is quite conservative. And then the next year, we'll get the other one to retire, and then get a young whippersnapper, 41, 42, 43 years old. I hate that I say that's young.
It is young.
And
comparatively. That's
cut
what
off,
you mean you hate.
I would cut off toes to be 42. But
your own?
See, that's why you're here. You have to call
Anybody
me on.
Can say they cut off toes.
I cut off your toes.
I cut off your own.
I cut off all your toes to gain 20 years. But I think that's going to be interesting to see. The first 2 years are very important, and so I hope that Republicans will do a good job with that. Should we say just a word about the attacks?
Yeah,
I think we have to. And all I would say about that is you have the bombing, you got a couple of bombings, and probably more, in the next week. You have bombings, you have the mowing down of people with the pickup truck. And all I would say about that is I want to just commit, I'm saying to you now, Lauren, to you, but certainly to anyone, to the ethos. Mm-hmm. I don't want to jump too quickly on any side. Everyone jumps to their corners because we live in a tribal world. Tribalism is the greatest threat to America, as I've said before.
What do you mean jump to a side?
Well, you jump to the corner. You're either going to say, they mowed down people. Were they trans? Were they illegal? Were they gay?
Trying to figure out who to blame.
That's right. And the other side says, were they MAGA? Did they vote Republican? Are they from Texas? Were there way too many guns?
Right.
It's like, everybody, please, tap the brakes. We're going to figure this out. Write this down. We're all in this together. But I really do feel like that when everybody, and even people on my side, even people on the side that I agree with, jump too quickly to that. I don't like it. I don't think we're better for it. I think the best way to do is say, you know what? It's a tragic thing. We don't say, well, who was out walking on Bourbon Street at 4 a.m., 3 a.m.? If you hadn't been there, you wouldn't have died. I mean, who cares? That doesn't matter.
Right.
And actually, who does it? Now, it does appear to be coordinated. Mm-hmm. Both people rented vehicles from the same weird sort of Uber-like place where you could rent a car, which I never knew even existed.
It's fairly new.
Is
right?
it?
A newish option.
It's kind of an outlier. I mean, it's the way I've heard it described.
I think you can get cars that maybe you can't get because you're renting from individuals,
right?
So you can get cars that might not be available or readily available to you if you rented from someplace you found at the airport.
It also is not a coincidence, I don't think, not that it matters what I think about it, that it was a Tesla truck. By the way, they're funky looking trucks, but a Tesla truck that was blown up in front of Trump tower.
Uh-huh.
That's Donald Trump, Elon Musk.
Sure.
And Weird, the guy blew himself up. Special operator in the U.S. Armed Forces. Radicalized. At least that's the way it's looking right now. But I would just say, let it all play out. Don't jump too quickly to say, don't be disappointed when it wasn't, somebody in a group you disagree with that was the culprit. It doesn't matter for that. We need to all, this is the great thing about America. You're free to be a liberal. You're free to be conservative. You're free to be Republican or Democrat or whatever. That's what I love. I don't want is it homogeneity?
Homogenization?
Right. That's not what I want.
Okay.
I don't want everybody to be the same. Mm-hmm. I like the fact that we can disagree and not be disagreeable, that we can hold our ground, that kindness does not mean compromise. Kindness just means kindness. Mm-hmm. Not everybody's in the same place, man. Some people are in the days, not to get too Jesus about it, but, everybody who doesn't know the Lord is exactly where I was before I didn't know the Lord.
Sure.
And we don't just get to decide, well, now that I know the Lord, I'm going to be judgy eyes on everybody. Because, I just told you the truth. What's your problem? Well, that's a long conversation. I might have a real problem. I might have an upbringing problem. I might have a childhood problem. I might have an inclination problem. I might have a DNA problem. I might have all kinds of problems. But thank you for your grace. So
I know it's coming. I know it's in there.
So I just think, look, if people are still breathing in and breathing out, pray for them. That's it.
Yeah.
We're not called to fix anybody. By the way, not you, Lauren, the other you, you are a full-time job. Just worry about yourself. Don't worry about other people. Just pray for them. Love them and pray for them. That's it. All right. What else do we have that we want to chat before we go to Scattershoot, which we know we're going to get to in a couple of minutes?
Well, you said you wanted to talk about top stories of 2024.
Oh, yeah.
And my search engine feeds me different kinds of stories than yours does, because we look at different things. That's the way that it works. So when I was looking at top stories of 2024, although I gotta say this went way into 2023. If we'd started this a year earlier, this probably would have been one of our top stories. Then too, because Taylor Swift's Eras tour ended on December 8, 2024. I guess that's what makes it the big story.
Yeah, sure, I think so.
It ended. She was in Vancouver, British Columbia. And I think, one of the most interesting things about it, there are a lot of interesting things. She started out having 10 studio albums, and those were the Eras. She put out another album during that time, added more songs to what, it was a 3.5-hour show. Ask me how I know it was a 3.5-hour show.
You had the bracelet.
I was, no, you know what? I didn't get it. We didn't know about the bracelets.
No.
I would have had a wrist full of bracelets.
No.
We were really early.
I thought you got the glowing bracelet while you were there.
Oh, yeah, that was different, though. When people talk about the bracelets, they're talking about the friendship bracelets.
Oh, I didn't know. By the way, that did not work out well for Kamala, but go ahead, Kamala.
That's a totally different
I know.
story.
We already finished that part. Go ahead.
Yeah. But I think I lost my story here. A 21 month tour, 5 continents, 149 shows, highest grossing tour of all time, $2 billion more in revenue. But I think the thing that is the most interesting about it to me is, and this might not really have anything to do with the tour, but there was even an extra spotlight on her, I think, because of that. All of these other people, like did we even know? I'm sure they had a lot of people listening, but I didn't even really know who the Kelsey brothers were.
I'm going to interrupt you.
Until
honestly,
Taylor Swift sort of touched them with her little.
I don't know.
One of them, with her little.
I don't think they
magic wand.
It's all because of Taylor. She touches stuff; it turns to gold, and good for everybody. Good for the economy. I got no problem with it.
People already loved her. I know people already loved her. She already had a really good thing going. she's people love her, but you're right. I mean, the platform that is Taylor Swift kind of pushed all of that up, and I think maybe they're household names in a way they wouldn't have been had it not been for their association with her.
Yeah, as a purist for sport, I don't like other things that come into sport. Although I didn't like it when it was, so it's not just about Taylor Swift. I didn't like it 100 years ago when it was Tony Romo and Jessica Simpson.
Yeah.
I don't like it when
a long time ago.
I know. I didn't like it when it was politics. I just want sport to be sport. I mean, I just liked, give me one thing that I don't have to have infiltrated by politics or who you voted for, and who cares, man? Just play the game.
I kind of feel like that too about my pop music. You know, I don't like it that football is now in the middle of it, and I don't like it. I'm a pop music purist. I don't want to hear about football. I'm joking, of course.
No, it's good. No, before we go to Scattershoots, coming up in a couple of seconds, we're back, Lauren.
We are back.
Wilder Show podcast drops twice a week. We hope that you'll find it and share it and all the things that you do, whatever it is. The website is wildershow.com. The podcast is Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m. It drops on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, wherever. And so follow, subscribe, and share. You can also participate by leaving a comment, a question, a review. I mean, from an audio standpoint, if you'll go to wildershow.com or if you'll go to the Facebook Wilder Show page, you'll see where to click when you get there. And you can leave that. We'll incorporate it as part of the show. I like the interactive nature of it. And so we're back, and we're happily so. You know, I bowed out of all this stuff for a long time.
All this stuff. What do you mean?
Well, you know, we did the show, and then I still followed politics and news and current events and all that kind of stuff. And then at some point, and I don't know when it was, I mean, you might have a better handle on that than I, but I just was done. I didn't want to hear about it. I didn't want to read about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to come up with my own thoughts about it. I want to opine about it. And part of it was not that I didn't care, but it turns out that the people in the checkout line at the grocery store didn't care about my thoughts about all those.
They weren't as interested in it.
They weren't
because maybe you thought they'd.
Let me say this: they were impressed, not at all. And it wasn't just that. It was over. It was over. I couldn't do it anymore, and so I completely.
You mean you couldn't even absorb it anymore? You weren't interested in reading about it and knowing about it. I think there was always part of it for you, if I may, at least part of it was getting to, read about it, learn about it, figure it out, and share it, and not so much in a teaching way, but just in a teaching and interactive, teaching and learning from other people, getting other people's perspectives, and being able to kind of grow your own based on that interaction.
I think that's exactly right. Have a conversation about it. When I was a young lad, I was the first of 3 boys and a girl, and my 2 brothers and I shared a room. And when I was a wee lad, and they kicked me out of the baby bed because there was another one, the usurper. The usurper was coming in.
How old are you? And you're still.
I'm not bitter.
You're still talking about.
I'm trying to make a point. I'm trying to make a point about my nature. And so the usurper came in, and I was in a big boy bed. I was in a big boy, which, by the way, just interestingly, maybe it's the same exact bed that I slept in all of my years until I went to college. So my baby bed, my small twin bed,
your big boy bed,
my big boy bed.
They called it the big boy.
They did. Oh, Scott, look how exciting it is. Where's my cage? The big boy bed. So I put in the big boy bed. That was the same bed I was in. I slept in it every single night until I went to college.
That's a long time.
I still have it, actually. I still have that exact same bed.
No, you don't.
I do. Absolutely, I do. I have mine and the usurpers. I really do. I'm not kidding you. I have both of them.
That's a long time.
I know.
To have a bed.
I know. It's the same one. So it's anyway. So when I was a kid, my parents always knew that I was interested in whatever was going on. Like if there was activity, I had to know about it.
In the house.
In the house, in the world. But yes, in the house. So I would sometimes skulk out of my little room and to come down to see the Johnny Carson show or whatever, Jack Parr, whatever was on the television late at night. Or I had to have a glass of water. It was always something, with this kid. And so I would sneak out. My dad once took me back, picked me up, took me back. Remember, I'm only 18 months old when the usurper was born. So, I mean, I'm younger than 2 years old. So, I'm a really wee lad. Towhead, blue-eyed. I was quite the skinny little lad. Looked like a Q-tip with blonde hair on the top. So, my dad would pick me up. He picked me up this one time, took me back to the room, and he drew his finger along the threshold. And he said, "Do not cross this line." Now, my dad was a great guy. You knew my dad.
I did.
Kind guy. But he had had enough of the wonders of me in all of that and said, "Do not cross this line." My parents, as they were going to bed that night, came back to sort of check on the boys. They found me with my pillow from my big boy bed that I had put right up against the threshold and was asleep on the floor.
Good for you for following the rules, though.
Now, I tell you all that to say, yes, it is my nature to still want to know what's going on. That's a long talk show host way of telling the story. Yes, I agree. I was always interested in the political stuff. It was fed to me and all that kind of stuff, but I couldn't do it. I didn't have the bandwidth to deal with it. It was too big, and I had no outlet to share it. And it was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to watch Court TV. And so I watched Court TV for more than a year because there was nothing that was political. I was looking for something that was absent. You couldn't go to sports without politics. You couldn't go to flipping music without politics. You couldn't go anywhere without politics. Court TV you get without politics. And so I dived into some of the different cases there and was interesting or whatever. But anyway, it was a media absorption that was absent politics. Now, other than the fact that we had a president who had legal problems, every now and then there was, or a former president, there were things that were political.
Kept
but for the most part,
back.
yeah. But for the most part, it was absent politics. So but it is good to be back. It's not that I've not had thoughts, and we'll share some of those as we already have for much longer than we intended this time. Any final thoughts before we go to Scattershoot?
I think I think
you
I'm
tapped
good.
out?
Yeah, I'm tapped out.
All right, wildershow.com is a website. Warn the audience out too, not just you, Lauren. Podcast Tuesdays and Fridays, 6 a.m., Spotify, Apple, Amazon, iHeart, like, follow, subscribe, and share. And Scattershoot is coming up. It is time for Scattershoot. It's one of my favorite times.
I remember that.
Twice a week now, which is it's just a little bit different than it was before. Okay, Scattershoot. This is sort of, I've told you off mic before, it's sort of like if everything was church. The other part is Sunday morning, is big church. And this is like Sunday night church. It's where like just family type stuff.
It's like when they let the little kids come in.
It is exactly like that.
People are a little more fidgety and
yes,
it's a little louder.
It's okay. And we sing all 4 verses of everything at Sunday night church. Anyway, but it's not church, so don't hold us to that very high standard.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about, I guess, what this is that we're doing. We didn't talk a lot about that in the first thing. The first part of this.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure, yeah.
In Sunday night church, would somebody like lean over to you and say, "Silence your phone," so we don't hear that little?
Yeah. The only thing is, in those days, there were no phones.
I know.
Nobody.
That's kind of my nice way of saying.
Yeah, that's right.
Silence your phone, because I just heard you get a text.
Did you really? I'm
did.
sorry. I didn't even hear that. I'm sorry about that. Yeah, no, my memory of Sunday night.
Or some very important news story or whatever it means when your phone makes that little
Or maybe a new podcast listener.
Or maybe a new podcast dropped. Like
That's
somebody
right.
else just
That's
started
exactly.
a new podcast.
You never know. It's
You
so
never know.
busy. They're like 6 million. One of my memories, just to chase that rabbit trail of Sunday night church, one of my not favorite memories, one of my stark memories of Sunday night church, right between afternoon ensemble, singing ensemble thing, at rehearsal, and then church, evening church. I had just a very few minutes, and me and a friend of mine, we got in a car and ran down the road to Long John Silver's.
Okay.
And it was pouring rain. I mean, pouring rain. And we ordered what we were going to order, and we sat in the car. And, of course, the windows had to be up,
Right.
the whole time.
Yeah.
So we were in a car eating fried fish and other fried things for, 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Came back to church, reeked.
Smelled terrible.
Reeked.
I knew where you were going.
Oh,
Yeah.
my. It was quite the embarrassment. Anyway, I digress. But that's part of what scattershooting is. You do digress every now and then. This is the iteration, the newfangled iteration of Wilder Show, right?
Yeah.
It's Wilder Show podcast. This is sort of our 2.0.
Right.
Actually, it might be our 2.1. We may need to talk about what our 2.0 has been in the last several years. But this is going to, can I say drop?
Sure. You sound really cool when you say that.
This is going to drop on Tuesdays and Fridays at 6 a.m.
Okay.
And you can find it, they love to say things like this, wherever you get your podcasts.
Yeah.
Now, I would just say go to Spotify or Apple Music, and most people will, but you can get it other places too. Just search Wilder Show. You'll see the bug. You'll see the little logo there, Wilder Show logo. You can also find us on Facebook and other places, but we'll get into all that as the days unfold. And we also have a way to interact. Lauren, one of the things that I have been reticent about doing a podcast all these years, because I had people, I had friends on the radio in other cities that said, man, you got to do a podcast, man. I mean, you got to do a podcast.
Yeah, we missed the first boom
That's okay.
of podcasts. And then there was a pandemic boom
There was.
of podcasts too, but we actually were kind of busy during the, unlike so many others, we were kind of busy.
That's right.
Then, so we didn't have time to start
that's true.
A podcast then.
But one of the things I really was slow to, and I think technology has helped me now with this, we'll get to that in a second, is the interactive nature. Some people that were on the radio and they felt like that, everybody's tuning in to hear what I have to say.
Right.
I have some really important opinions on everything. And I have opinions on everything too. But early on, better than most. But early on, I said, I don't know, but I know people who know. And so that interactive part of it was most interesting to me. I never had some interest in just, I'm going to go on the air and all you guys shut up. I know what I'm doing. And we always talked about yield the floor to wisdom.
Well, the give and take with callers
Most
too.
important.
Yes, right.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, we used to say we reserve the front of the line for dissenters.
That's right.
If you're a dissenter, you get to the front of the line. And we never really wanted a bunch of attaboys. And it's nice to have people say, hey, it's great, love your show, whatever. Or love what you're saying, or agree with you, or whatever you're going to say. But really, I loved the interactive nature and the sort of, the dueling, I guess.
The push-pull, yeah.
It's a bit of a duel.
It's a little bit of a duel.
With people who didn't agree. And I always felt like, we talked about this at the time, hey, you know what? We may only, at the end of this exchange, we may only learn that you're not going to change. I'm not going to change. But let's live to talk another day.
Right.
And I think that's valuable. Sometimes we learn, sometimes we teach, and sometimes we just learn that we're going to coexist peacefully, for the next encounter. And I always thought that was most interesting. Anyway, so we have this now, and there's technology that if you will follow us, what do you do on podcasts? I don't even know. Do you follow? Do you like? What do you do that is the thing where we would know that they're there? Obviously, if they follow us on Facebook. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Facebook person, go to Facebook and search Wilder Show. Use the red Wilder Show thing.
Right.
And just follow.
I guess you friend, but I kind of missed that train too.
But if you do that, we will DM you, is that direct message you, information about how you can participate with questions, with comments, and then on the website, and more details on that in the future. But on the website, wildershow.com, there is a place there where you can click on it, and you can actually leave an audio comment.
Oh, like a voice message.
Like a voice. I'm sorry, like a voice message.
Okay.
So you could click on it and say, in I don't know, 2 minutes or whatever it is. You love Lauren, you hate me, or whatever it is you want to say. We can edit all that out. But that is a way we're going to be able to incorporate that.
Oh, I love that.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah, that's great.
And also previously, maybe somebody has already found, we did an episode 0 that was about AI. So at the very end of our time today, we're going to present a little something we'll describe maybe closer to that time.
Okay.
That is AI created. I sampled my voice.
Okay.
And well, you'll see when we get there.
Okay.
So let's answer the question if you don't mind, and I'll turn it over to you. Where have we been? We were off the air in whatever year it was.
2009.
Yeah, 2009.
Yeah.
So off the air 2009, and had done that radio show for 12 and a half years.
We had.
Every afternoon. Then it was over.
It was.
And that was after, previous to that, we've been in radio a long time.
A couple of
decades in Dallas. And then it was done. We parted ways. So, Lauren, where you been?
Basically, still right here.
Local.
Local. Yeah. Stayed in the same place locally. Did some things on the air and off the air. Right.
But not here in town, though, is that right?
No, not here in town.
Right.
Not here in town. Well, that's kind of the beauty of how this, what we do has grown. We were able to stay right here in town, but do some things in other parts of the country, oftentimes without even really having to leave the comfort of our little home studios.
There was a time we were on the radio, and we traveled around. I traveled around for the Bible League, and every year we raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for the Bible League.
Right.
And when the radio show went away, when we parted ways, we had people, for lack of a better phrase, not to borrow too much from the Bible, whither thou goest, we will go. I mean, if you're going to go somewhere else, we want to go with you. So we still did that sort of, I think, good and I think godly work.
Right.
For some people. And that's part of what we've been doing for the last 15 years.
That's right.
So we did that. We've done it, I believe, and maybe in the future we'll tell you a little bit more about this, but for, I believe, the greatest pro-life organization in America.
Absolutely.
I mean, absolutely the most consequential pro-life organization in America. And Lauren and I both are lifelong pro-life people. I mean, we, going way, way back. I mean, junior high. I mean, elementary school, junior. First, we knew about it. First, I knew about it, in 1973. Before that, because the Roe versus Wade was right in the hometown. Absolutely pro-life. So the chance to sort of join hearts and hands with such a great organization to do that. And have had the chance to travel and been to Africa many times since we parted ways on the radio, and have done lots of humanitarian work, different things like that. So that's sort of where we've been, and did a little stuff on radio, and then traveled. We should probably say part of what this work was being on the radio all around the country.
That's right.
I mean, we were on the air in D.C. Still are. In New York, still are.
East
Philadelphia.
Coast, West Coast. Yeah.
Tampa, Detroit, Chicago, Seattle, San Francisco, Sacramento.
All over California.
Phoenix, all over California. Right. So we still do that. We do it differently. And actually, you mentioned before the pandemic. Say a little word about that, because the pandemic was a really weird thing. You know, when everything shut down, because go back to 2019. Mm-hmm. In 2019, part of what we were doing, part of what I did for what we were doing was traveling. And so I traveled in 2019. I traveled 37 out of 52 weeks.
It's dizzying.
I mean,
it's a lot of moving around.
You think about it. Now, I mean, you know, if it was Tuesday, I was going to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Friday coming back, or Monday going to the airport, Thursday coming back. And all I ever did was take my suitcase, put it over the washer, dump everything in the washer, put it in the dryer, put it back in the suitcase, and then go back the next week.
Right.
Because that 37 out of 52 weeks includes a couple of weeks off for Christmas. You didn't probably travel on Thanksgiving week.
Right.
I mean, all these sort of built-in things you didn't. So it was like 37 out of 45 weeks of the year. Mm-hmm. Well, the next year, it all shut down.
That all stopped. Yeah.
And how do you survive doing what we did if you can't travel?
Well, we were able to figure out a way to for you to be with radio stations and really sound like you were right there in the same room with a lot of these folks, to do what to represent these great organizations and ministries that we had the gift of being able to represent, and you were able to do what you had done. But flying from place to place, from right where you're sitting right now, sitting in front of a microphone, connecting to them, and because of that, because you were able to do that from right here, we were able to do more of it, because those 2 days a week that you were traveling, we kind of got them back to do more work, and it was great, because we got to do more work, and these ministries and organizations that we represented that had more places for you to be, you were able to be there virtually.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it was better for me. I know Lauren was like, "Can he still not travel? You sure he can't travel? What if he double masks? What if he double masks? What if he triple masks? He should be able to travel." But yeah, we really was. We were probably busier in 2020 and 2021 than we had been before, or frankly, as we have been since.
That's true. Yeah.
It was because it was so concentrated. So we did that, and it was, and then you come to, and we're still doing that. So we're still doing that around the country. We just traveled four different cities in 3 weeks, I think, or something like that. And then some of those virtually, but they're actually traveling to some. But it's all been very, I think, interesting on our part. So why this? Why are we doing this now? That's sort of a question I'm actually asking you, because I don't know the answer to it.
Because we discovered that everybody else is. No. Not they really are, but and we miss it.
We do miss it.
We miss it.
We really
miss
do miss
the
it.
opportunity
That's true.
not just talk to each other and our families, but to talk to the people that we got so used to talking to every afternoon, and that things were so. We just talked about how it's been. How many years since 15 and a half years now? So much has changed just by the fact that you talked about how we used to have a wonderful but local audience. And the fact that you talked about, how people will hear this now.
Right.
There's an opportunity for the audience to be much bigger than that, but still, I think, feel that same sort of intimacy that you get when you talk to people a couple of times a week, and they get to know you, and hopefully we get to know you. And I don't know, I think probably for me that's the biggest reason why, just because that we really missed doing this. It's
a chance to do it. We wanted to grow because we always wanted at the radio show. We used to do the thing, double the audience in a week.
Right.
Tell one person, you double the audience. Now, these days, in those days, you live in Oklahoma City? Too bad you can't listen to the Scott Wilder show.
I know.
Because I really like it and blah, blah, blah. That was even before you could stream it on your phones in different ways. And now it's like, well, okay, hey, I'm going to listen to this. So you can send it. You can invite other friends to be a part of it. You can take what we say and then you can argue amongst yourselves. Or I think he's wrong. Of course he's wrong, but here's why he's wrong. Or whatever it is you want to say. I mean, that is the beauty of it. So we're excited about the opportunity to do this again. This is, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And we
already is.
I think it is. It already is fun. So,
and plus, we had all the stuff. I mean, we didn't have to go to we didn't have to go to the microphone store because we already had the microphone.
Right.
We have all this stuff.
We have
already.
all the stuff.
Yeah.
We have all the things, as the kids say. All the things. We have all the things. So I guess some business things. Make sure the best thing to do is to subscribe. I know you don't have to hear a podcast, but that helps us track things. Not track you, but just to know that it's actually being heard. So subscribe or follow or whatever those things are. Forgive me if I don't know these things. There are so many things I don't know. But if you'll do, and then tell a friend about it. You can. I know now you can just forward something. You could do it on your phone. Just say, I listened to this or listen to this idiot or whatever.
We will not know what you put in the text
It's
message.
okay. I don't care.
Along with it. So
doesn't
if
matter
you
to
do
me.
say, listen to this idiot, that will not get back to us. Say whatever you want.
If that kind of stuff bothered me, I would never have done what we did for so long. I am comfortable with that. So that doesn't bother me at all. So tell a friend. Go ahead and follow us or friend us or whatever it is on Facebook. Just search Wilder Show. It's a big red little bug. You'll see it when you get there. I think we're on, I don't know, we're on that. And then you could do the podcast on, the main ways are Spotify and Apple. And then also Amazon and iHeart.
Amazon
yeah. But I think iHeart puts ads in there. We don't get anything from that. Whatever's the way you grab things, go ahead and grab those. Now, before we go, I do want to, we had on the episode 0, a rather vigorous conversation about AI, which I really do believe is one of the big stories of this last year, is the rise of AI, for good and for ill. Just saw a story today that AI can help diagnose a heart problem long before you have any symptoms.
Well,
So
yeah, and I know that there are plenty of it will change our lives or already is changing our lives in really good, great, beneficial ways.
So we were talking about music and the creation, quote, creation of music or songs or whatever. And we've already told you, I think, that the opening music of the Scott Wilder Show on the radio days was by Booker T and the MGs.
Yeah, great
and
song.
It was a great song called Hip Hug Her. And because of rights and royalties, copyrights, all that kind of stuff, it is not possible to start and do that here the way we did on the radio. And likewise, it's not possible to play other music that is in the middle of the show or as an ender.
Closing, sure.
The closing music on the show. And so I did something, Lauren, for you. That is, I did. I caught you a delicious bass. Break the wrist, walk away. It is an homage to our ending music before.
Okay.
And I sampled my voice. Well, I have to let you hear it. So listen to the end of this and then make sure you tell your friends, like and follow, rate us, comment, whatever. Go to the website and find out how to send us voicemails. You'll see it there. It's a nice little bug there you can click on. And we're excited to be back, aren't we, Lauren?
Yeah, we are. We can't wait to hear from you.
We're excited to be back.
Of course.
Okay, so here's our little homage as we wrap up our very first time.
Da 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 da.